радио.
105,1 FM HD2 в Нью-Йорке.
103,5 FM HD2 в Майами.
102,1 FM HD2 в Филадельфии.
А также в приложении iHeartRadio по всей Америке. Радио RUSA. Made in the USA.
Здравствуйте всем, кто нас сейчас слушает. Да, у нас теперь действительно появилась добрая традиция по вторникам в 12:10 общаться с очень мудрым и совершенно замечательным раввином Менисом Фридманом, который может всегда дать добрый совет, разъяснить сложную ситуацию и внести туда очень много света и позитива. И я рада всем объявить, что теперь у нас это будет состояться каждый вторник в 2:10. И люди даже могут принимать участие, если напишут нам на наш СМС портал радио 347-460-0877, и мы тоже будем тогда переадресовывать ваши вопросы к раввину Менису Фридману. Вот, а сейчас я уже перехожу на английский язык и приветствую нашего соведущего, Rabbi Friedman. Hello, welcome to RUSA Radio. I am happy to announce that now you're not a guest anymore. As of today, you're a host. You're a weekly host on RUSA Radio, and we can't be more excited about it because now we know for sure that once a week we'll get wonderful advice, wonderful words of wisdom from you on different topics that are so important to us in today's changing world. And I am so happy to report that after our last conversation, you said we're going to see a lot of good. Oh, that is so happening. We're seeing so much good. The goodness is coming out of people. People are coming up with acts of kindness and being kinder to each other and asking others to be kind. So it's so happening and so wonderful. But unfortunately, what is not so wonderful right now is the separation between children and parents. The separation which is caused, unfortunately, by the political and social situation, which has been happening for a long time, but is becoming a lot more apparent now. The children are more liberal, the parents are more conservative, and everybody is entitled to their point of view, but unfortunately, in a lot of instances, there's aggression and hate and too much negativity. How should the parents and children deal with today's situation? How can they come to terms and not let this rip families apart?
Families are ripped apart, communities are ripped apart, countries are ripped apart. How do we even expect anything different? You know, we have this idealistic dream of people getting along. But realistically, is that even possible? Has it ever been? So let's take, if we can go deep on this subject. Back in the 60s, back in the 60s, in America, people became very frustrated because having tried to find the truth in the 50s and failing to find the truth, they gave up. So in the 50s, people were running around looking for the truth. What's true? Different religions tell you different things, different philosophies, but which one is the truth? Well, they couldn't figure it out. So in frustration, they decided there is no truth, there's just experience. And that became the 60s. Experiment. Taste it, you like it. Try it, you like it. And if you like it, then that's what you do. Forget about truth. There's no truth. Now imagine what would happen if the world functioned that way. Try it, you'll like it. So everyone is going to like the same thing? Of course not. Chocolate and vanilla. Extroverted, introverted. Liberal, conservative. So we're going to have, as a natural consequence, we're going to have a very divided world. And since we do have an instinct for truth and still want and need to know what is true, our taste will become our truth. And not only will we be divided, but we will become antagonistic. Vanilla or chocolate? No choice. It has to be my way. What I prefer, what I like best. So here's the story. We have a choice in life to either live by what our mind tells us or to live by what our emotions tell us. It's really important that we recognize that the emotions don't really care whether something is true or false. And if you think about it, whether it's true or false, what's the difference? If it feels good, I'll do it. If not, I won't. But is it true? Who cares? You find a religion that works for you. What does that mean? It means it works for me. Is it true? Who cares? What's the difference? What's the difference? So we are basically living in the world of emotions with no concern for whether what we're saying is true or not. Not because we want to lie, not because we're trying to mislead people and give misinformation. It's that emotions don't react or respond to true or false. It's not within the emotions to make that distinction. The only place in us that cares whether something is true or false is in the mind. Like, for example, I figured out, took me a while, but I figured out that 2 and 2 is 4. Makes a lot of sense. But then my mind says, is that true? Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But is it true? So what do? To prove that it's true, I take 4 and I divide it in half. Do I get 2? Then I've proven that my theory is correct. But why does the mind do that? If the mind comes up with a really pretty concept, a neat little theory, or why do I have to check it to see if it's true? Isn't it good enough that it makes a lot of sense and I like it? No, but those are your emotions. Like and dislike is emotion, not intelligence. Like and dislike is very strongly influenced by pleasure and pain. Because what gives me pleasure, I generally like. What gives me pain, not so much. So we see a world, at least in the United States, we see a world that is functioning on emotion. So what do you expect? Children and parents, teachers and students, workers and employers and employees, government and citizens. There is no way. There is no way. Emotions divide us. They don't unite. Say, well, if we all loved each other, yeah, if we all loved each other, we would all hate someone else. Because love is an extreme. Where there's love, there's going to be hate or backlash or something, you know. I think we've spoken about this even in terms of intimacy. Love doesn't bring you together because emotions can't bring you together. Emotions divide. I feel, you feel, what I feel, you don't feel, what you feel, I don't feel. So emotions, when they happen to coincide, we're lucky. Not going to last. It's not a lifestyle. It's not a philosophy. You can't teach it to your children. So what is the solution? The solution is, and this is what's going to happen, people are going to stop emoting and ask themselves, what's right? The heart doesn't care. The emotions don't care whether it's right or true. Only the mind cares. So we need to go back to using mind as a lifestyle, not an opinion. When you use your mind, this can unite, because whatever is true is really true for everybody. So people who are desperately demanding, urging, begging, let's all love each other and that'll unite us because we will all be doing the same thing. That's wishful thinking. Love cannot unite us because we're all going to love differently. It's too subjective. So it's what makes us different in a positive way. It's not meant to bring us together. Only the mind can produce an objective reality that everyone can agree with. So here's the desperation of our times. We're looking for something that is universal, that can unite us, but we're looking in the wrong place. So parents and children, you're liberal, you're conservative, you're permissive, you're too strict, you're too harsh, you're too generous. When is generous the right thing? When is law the right thing? They each have their place in the bigger picture. But when you don't have a bigger picture, all you have is puzzle pieces with no idea of how they're supposed to go together. What is truth? What's true? So here's a fascinating thing. Fact and truth are not the same thing. Did we ever talk about this before? Sounds very familiar.
Maybe touched upon it, but it would be good right now to go deeper.
Okay. Fact is not necessarily true. And true is not necessarily a fact. Just for example, Jews don't eat pork. True or false?
False.
Ask any anti-Semite. Jews don't eat pork. It's true. But isn't it also true that Jews do eat pork? No, it's not true. It's a fact. It's a fact that there are Jews who eat pork. It is still true that Jews don't eat pork. Pretty much like, is it true that human beings are basically good?
Yes.
Yes?
If I didn't think that.
Right. Do you have any evidence for that in history?
Sure.
The fact is, human beings are horrible. right? No other creature in the world can be as horrible as a human being. That's a fact. But you're right. Truth, human beings are basically good. But the reason human beings are basically good is because they're intelligent, not emotional. Emotions don't make us good. They just make us different from each other. What makes us good is the ability to be objective. For example, I'm in a really bad mood. I'm very angry right now. So where do I go from there? I got to hit somebody. The mind says, what are you angry about? Maybe you don't need to be angry. Maybe you shouldn't. At least don't hit anybody. That's your mind talking. Because your mind can be objective. It can think whether you should be angry. Your emotions can't do that. Angry is angry. What am I going to do? So there's a difference between fact and truth. The difference is this. Fact is reality. It's real. But it's reality as it happens to be. I happen to be angry right now. Truth means reality as it ought to be, as it must be. So, two realities. Fact is real and truth is real, but they're different. Reality of fact is what happens to be. I happen to be angry. I must be angry. I should be angry. No. Truth is, I should not be angry. Fact is, I am angry. That's the challenge for every intelligent human being. Make your facts the truth and make the truth your fact. What should be in truth should also be in fact. And the only way that that can be resolved is if the fact surrenders to the truth, because truth can't change. Let's talk about it from a Jewish perspective. The Jews leave Egypt after the 10 plagues and the splitting of the sea. They're at the sea, and they need to go to Mount Sinai. They have an appointment with God. So they're standing there on the beach, wondering what to do. And they ask God, what should we do? God says, go to Mount Sinai. They said, we would love to, but there's an ocean here. God says, you're supposed to go to Mount Sinai. Go to Mount Sinai. So they go, and the water gets out of the way. Now, of course, we call it a miracle. Miracle of miracles. But what actually happened? Getting to Mount Sinai was absolutely necessary because that is the entire purpose for which God created the world in the first place. That is truth. There's an ocean. There has to be an ocean right there. There must be. There happens to be an ocean. So if you just continue following the truth, the facts will cooperate. The fact will surrender to the truth. And that's what happened. Unfortunately, the world we live in so far has always had this split between true and fact. So when the truth prevails and the fact surrenders, we call it a miracle. But it shouldn't be. A person, God forbid, is in a terrible car accident, but he survives. A miracle. Again, what just happened? Life must be. Death doesn't have to be. So in this case, the fact surrendered to the truth. Instead of dying, he lived, he survived. We still call it a miracle because we're not used to facts surrendering to the truth. When communism collapsed, American newspapers came that close to calling it a miracle. Surprise, unexpected. Yeah. Why? The fact is, there was communism. The truth is, there's no communism. So, another way of saying it is, there are rules, and there are exceptions to every rule. But if every exception cancels the rule, then we have chaos. So yes, there are exceptions to every rule. The rule still stands. Right is right, no matter how many times you violate it. Wrong is wrong, no matter how many times you do it. So emotions are more like fact, and the mind searches for truth. So what is truth? Truth is the reality that should be, must be, and eventually will be. But what about the facts? Look at the facts. Be realistic. I am realistic. But there are two realities. There's always been. And that is this divided, imperfect world. The coming of Mashiach means the world will settle down and this divide will go away. Every truth will be the fact. It's true that human beings are basically decent. Well, then that will become the fact. People will be decent. Why not, if that's the truth? Jews don't eat pork? Yeah, so Jews won't eat pork. In other words, truth is God's vision. Fact is the process that we're in getting to God's vision. But we must get there, inevitably, unavoidably, absolutely, because that is the entire purpose for our existence, which means that's our truth.
Reverend Friedman, what would you tell those who don't believe in God?
You have no choice. Actually, anybody who says it's got to get better believes in God. They don't realize it, but that's what they're saying. If you're really convinced that it's got to get better, you believe in God. You believe in a truth. And truth means something that was real before we existed. That's truth. To argue that there was nothing real before we came into existence is kind of shallow and silly. If we came out of something that isn't real, how real are we?
Reverend Friedman, one of our listeners is asking you to please define goodness.
Goodness, in practical terms, not in philosophical terms, goodness means your needs are more urgent than mine. Your pain hurts more than mine. Your survival is more vital than mine. That is a goodness instinct, to be able to put someone else above yourself. Evil means nothing is more important than me. That's it. That's the difference between good and evil. If there's nothing more important than me, it's not going to be pretty.
So since, as you have said it many times on our radio and outside of the radio, there's a tremendous separation between good and evil that is taking place in the world right now, which means the separation of people wanting good for somebody else versus pleasing themselves.
The polarization, the extreme degree of disagreement, of intolerance, has reached a point where everybody's got to stop and say, whoa, this can't be. We're finished. So people are going, okay, so instead of hating each other, let's love each other. You're just stirring the mud. You're not getting out of the mud. Emotions will not help. We've got to get higher. Go above and beyond. I don't care if you love me or you hate me. You gotta do what's right.
So what actions should people take right now to get to that point? Let's talk to both observant, non-observant, Jews, non-Jews, everybody. What is the general formula right now?
The real solution, not a Band-Aid, the real solution is start talking to your children about the purpose of life. We surrendered and we gave up on finding truth. You can't. You can't give up, and you cannot surrender. We got to find truth. And you got to start from young, from school age. So a moment of silence at the beginning of the day, to stop and just give it a thought for a minute. Why are we here? What's real? What's true? You can't skip that. You can't make believe you don't care. Because if we don't know why we're here, then we certainly don't know how to be here. And we're learning it the hard way, very hard way, to a point where we're not going to have any choice. You know, it's either destroy the world or get to the truth. It's one or the other.
But what if we get a little bit more specific? The problems right now are more between teenagers, young adults, and their parents, where the teenagers and the young adults feel like their generation is doing something. They're going out there. They're looking for the truth, fighting for the truth. And the parents are doing nothing. They're old school. They don't know reality anymore. And this creates the friction. How would you advise those families to deal with each other right now?
So hopefully the adults can set the tone by moving beyond emotion into reason, into known truths, right and wrong. So instead of arguing policies, instead of arguing politics, instead of arguing theories, we got to stick to the old-fashioned message. That's not right. It's not right. It may sound good, you may have a good argument, but it's not right. It's like, in school they have the broken record method. We don't fight in the classroom. Yeah, but he started, she said, but we don't fight in the classroom. Well, how come last week? See, if you say anything besides we don't fight in the classroom, you're going to lose the argument. And you're going to lose control of the classroom. You have to be a broken record. We do not, not I don't want you to, or I hate when you do, or I'm going to punish you. We don't. That's a truth. And don't budge from it. So don't argue the philosophy. The children are saying we need to be more liberal, we need to be more lenient, we need to be more strict, whatever they're saying. Yeah, the theory is a good theory, but no, you can't hurt people, and you can't. Not allowed in the old language. You know, there's a guy, I forget what was his name. The guy who started the clinic in Kansas. What was his name? I'll think of it in a minute. Anyway, he was a very famous and popular psychologist, and he was giving a lecture on psychology or child psychology to a group of priests. This must have been back in the 30s, maybe 40s. The priests were very impressed. And after his speech, they came over to him and they said, "Where can we learn more about psychology?" And he got very upset. And he said to them, "That was not my point. I am not encouraging you to study more psychology. On the contrary, do your job better and we won't have to work so hard." And then he wrote a book. Because of that exchange, he wrote a book called "Whatever Became of Sin," in which he argues that there was a time when we knew what was sinful and what was not. We knew right from wrong. All of a sudden, nothing is a sin. It's antisocial behavior. But then antisocial behavior became emotional acting out. And then it became a symptom of a traumatic dislocation of the maturing processes. In other words, we don't know right from wrong anymore. So of course, everybody's going to end up needing psychiatric treatment. So he was saying, many psychological problems, emotional problems, come from the fact that we don't know right from wrong. So what's the solution? Love each other. You got to get back to right and wrong, because that's a universal truth. Right and wrong was not created by human beings. It was created by God, and it was exposed at Sinai. It's the only solution.
So what exactly is the verbiage of the broken record that parents should tell their children of all ages?
God said no. God said no. See, it's very, very sad, but unfortunately true. Nobody cares whether something is right or wrong, whether it's true or false. Who cares? I mean, ask the average person. They don't know. What's the difference? What's the difference if I'm right or wrong? I'm either rich or poor. I'm either strong or weak. I'm either the bully or the bullied. Right and wrong? What difference does it make? True or false? What's the difference? This I like, this I don't like. Is it true? Is what true? What does true mean? Nobody cares. And that's because we're living in a world of emotion. And to your emotions, true and false doesn't matter. It's a non-issue. But if we live in the world of emotions, we are reduced to animal behavior. The human quality of intelligence is simply not being put to use.
Rabbi Friedman, amazing. Once again, amazing. Thank you. Thank you for moving us just a little bit more upwards and just putting things more in perspective. And hopefully we'll all get there where we can think cleanly. People say eat clean. I say think clean. And thank you for being, for putting us on that path.
We will get there. There's no question. The only question is how many scars will be left behind. But we will get there.
Hopefully we'll get there very, very soon. And I'm so grateful on behalf of our entire community for having you on our radio, and very much look forward to next Tuesday. Now we can say that with regularity. And we'll be more prepared next time to take more questions from the audience. So hopefully everybody can get some immediate resolutions. Again, thank you so much for being with us today and always.
Have a great week. Thank you.
Thank you. Всем я просто сейчас хочу сказать абсолютно от себя. Меня никто не просит, ни в коем случае здесь нету никакой коммерции. Но я очень рекомендую канал Rabbi Фридмана на YouTube, Menis Friedman. Там есть очень огромное количество интересных лекций на любые темы. Также рекомендую его сайт itsgoodtoknow.org. И если у кого-то есть желание пообщаться с Ребби Фридманом просто вот напрямую и поговорить с ним непосредственно, один на один, это есть тоже такая возможность уникальная. 1-800-656-56-69. Но так как у нас эти разговоры с раввином Менисом Фридманом теперь будут еженедельно, по вторникам в 12:10, вот в это время, пожалуйста, пишите, задавайте ваши вопросы на info@rusa.fm. info@rusa.fm всю неделю. И ко вторнику мы будем задавать ваши вопросы напрямую Ребби Фридману. А теперь просто спасибо всем,